How does this go? Goes this way. Right. Do you like my new vase and flowers? I got it at the weekend. Me and my mum went to Dunelm Mill and the Range. I got the flowers in Dunelm Mill. I've been wanting to make some kind of wildflower arrangement for a while, and I was running around going flower crazy. I loved it, and I made this little arrangement, and I got this awesome vase. Got the vase on sale, and before we had even left the car park, it fell over in the car and smashed. But I think I've done a pretty good job at fixing that. The cracks just add to the rustic look. I wanted to talk about art. It was probably about mid 2016 when I decided I was going to properly stop practicing my art again, and it got me thinking, like, why the hell did I even stop in the first place? Because when I grew up I was always painting and drawing and experimenting. I have some of my art from when I was young here. My mum sorted out a bunch of it the other day, and a bunch of fantastic epic novels that I wrote as a kid. Immediately there's some Xena and some more Xena. This technically is plagiarism. I just rewrote The Hunchback of Notre Dame into my own book and credited myself. But there's some fantastic cover art, and I was, what, 5? I didn't finish this, but I remember being so proud of my shading here. This is a drawing of an actual shoe that I had, and I remember it was really weird. I never ever wore it because the little dots on here, it wasn't just a pattern, they were like 3D. They stuck off the shoe like warts or something. It was a bit odd. Never wore them, but I drew them. This one might not look like much, but I remember it really well because our art teacher put some music on in the class and told us to just, like, interpret it into a picture, just paint whatever we felt as we listened to the music. I think it was some kind of classical music. When I was about 14 or 15, I just stopped drawing, stopped painting. I'd still doodle every now and again, but I never properly sat down with, like, pens and paper and paint and, like, made something I was proud of. Around that age, there were people in school that were getting really good at drawing. They would sketch little things on their school books and show people, and they were really good. So I guess that's the first time when I started, like, comparing myself to people. Now, being older and wiser, I know it's not a good idea. I mean, it's not a good idea in general, but especially when it comes to art. And I just thought, well, I'm not good at it. I'll focus on making my films instead. Looking back now, I just wish I carried on practicing just for fun, just because I enjoyed it, with no expectation of myself to produce some great masterpiece. I wish I just carried on doing it because I enjoyed it the same way that I did with film. My first videos, technically, were like these weird little short films that I would direct my mum in. My mum had this, like, massive camcorder, and she was always filming me with it when I was growing up, which is probably a big part of why I became so interested in it. Like, 50% of the time, rather than seeing my mum's face, I was looking at a camera. The camera was like my second mother, which I didn't mind at all. I loved it. I was really interested in the camera. She'd let me play with it, and I would direct my mum, and we'd act out this little terrible story. Like, often the story was something like, a ballerina finds an injured dog and gives it water. The end. Lots of them involve my dog Sophie. She just kind of laid there in the background, and I would go up to her like, oh no, an injured dog. I, the ballerina, will save you. And I'd also film things like 3 hours of close-ups of every Christmas decoration from 10 angles. I went pretty hard with the camcorder, and looking back, I'm surprised my mum wasn't like, you need to calm down. I knew I wasn't making a masterpiece, but I loved it. My first time ever editing something, I had the camcorder connected to our TV with a VHS in, and I was manually, like, hitting record, stop, cycling through to the next cut, record, stop. Then I got a trial version of some editing software, and I figured out that I could record in The Sims, so I started making, like, little Sims music videos and stuff, but I couldn't actually afford to buy any editing software for a long time, so all my videos had trial version, like, really big in the middle of the screen. I think even the videos that I showed my tutor to get into college had trial version all over the screen. Then I discovered YouTube. I started making some Xena fan videos. I started making Xena fan videos with me in them. Then other videos with me in them. Fast forward quite a few years, And here we are. I often think about like all the time spent making random little things, technically garbage things, but garbage things that I enjoyed, and wishing I could tell me back then that this is where it would lead. I learnt a word the other day that's very appropriate for this. Ennuyement? Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. The bittersweetness of having arrived in the future, seeing how things turn out, but not being able to tell your past self. Hashtag future self problems. So far, at least, this is the culmination of like one of my greatest passions in life. And I know a YouTube channel is not like the most amazing accomplishment in the world, but I'm proud of it and I think it's really cool. But with drawing and painting, I stopped because I came to the conclusion that I just wasn't good at it. Some people definitely have like a natural talent for these kind of things, but you can also practice. Something I had to like get over was that I'd sit down and look at this blank bit of paper with this massive idea in my head, and I was like, right, if I just try hard enough and be good enough at this, then it's gonna go great. And inevitably, when something didn't go to plan, I'd get really annoyed with it. Suddenly just sort of thinking about my artwork in the same way that I did my videos turned a little sort of light bulb on in my head. I hope I don't sound arrogant. Like most of you guys probably know, I'm my own biggest critic. Like I'm so critical of everything I make, but I know that I've come a long way in terms of my filmmaking, and I know that I can make some really cool stuff. I have made some really cool stuff that I'm really proud of. I only got to that point because I kept doing it, whether I thought it was good or not. I enjoyed it so much and I loved the process and everything, and I just kept doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it. So now when I sit down to draw or paint, I don't go in with like a really rigid idea in my head of like, I must create this and it must look really good. I doodle whatever I fancy doodling. I'll look at some reference pictures and like try different things out. Sometimes I'll have like a theme for a bit of paper, or I'll just doodle different things to do with like that theme. I know kind of what I want to do and what I would hope to do, but I need to allow myself to like play and experiment and make mistakes. It sounds so straightforward and obvious, but sometimes finding the motivation to carry on practicing, to keep doing something even when you don't love what you're producing, sometimes that's difficult, but I'm doing very well. I've kept every thing I've drawn and painted that I don't like. This contains all my mistakes and all the things that went well, and before I sit down to paint, I always have a real quick look through all of it. The things I didn't like, it reminds me what I didn't like about it and what I could do different. The things I do like, I just feel good looking at them. It reminds me what I liked about it and, you know, things I might want to do again. I started watching a bunch of artists on YouTube and hearing about like their process and their advice and everything. That was really helpful and very inspiring. And you lot, all the art that you guys have drawn of me and tagged me in over the years, it all kind of kept painting and drawing like there in my mind. I really love everything that you guys tag me in and send me, and I've been tagged in a lot of stuff over the years now, but they still all feel so different and so unique to you. I've discovered that so far at least I'm only comfortable painting at like a very specific scale, and it's quite tiny. I really prefer painting things quite small. I just have a much better idea in my head of like how I'll do things. This bit of paper is kind of a mess, but the deer I really, really love. It took me quite a while to get it how I wanted it, and mostly that was because I was trying to figure out the scale that I was drawing at. I had loads of attempts where it was a little bit too big or a little bit too small, but at this little scale I think it's quite nice. I've been making an effort a few times a week at least to sit down and practice, and I'm so glad that I decided to do that because it's making me so happy. It's really, really, really helpful when it comes to my mental health. Just being able to sit down and like take my mind off, focus on filling in some lines or like painting something. It's helped a lot. On this page are some of the first few drawings from when I started practicing again. So this was one of my first attempts at drawing some yarrow, and that was one of my first attempts at some corn. Now this is my yarrow, and I think it looks a lot better. And I did a painting of some corn that I was pretty proud of. The thing I liked the most about that for some reason was like the little hairs. You see the little hairs sticking out of it. The little corn hairs. I'm particularly proud of this carrot for some reason. I just really like how it came out. And this onion. I really like this onion. Bringing this video full circle back to my lovely vase. The same day that I bought that in the same shops, I also bought a bunch of picture frames, and I'm gonna frame some of my art eventually and sell it. I will sell originals in these, probably, I think. A lot of you have been wanting to buy some art, and I'm more than happy to give it to you, but I still want to do some practicing for a while. I'm still not quite confident enough to be selling it to people. At the minute, my patrons are the only ones getting some of my art on products and stuff. Like, as I'm practicing, I send them out something every month, like badges and bookmarks and stuff. Whoever gets this frame, you're very lucky, because I was this close to keeping it for myself because I think it's so cute, and it's the perfect size for one of my little miniature paintings. That's everything really. I just wanted to chat about that because I've spent so much time recently thinking about this and like doing this and practicing and stuff, and I post updates on my Instagram. Well, not updates, I post little pictures of stuff I've painted on my Instagram every now and again, but I really wanted to just chat about it in a video because I've been watching loads of videos about art, so I'm feeling all artsy fartsy. I guess the moral of the story, if we have to find one, is don't necessarily give up on stuff. If there is an art or a craft or a skill that you want to improve on and cultivate, then go for it. Thank you for listening to me ramble. I hope you enjoyed this little chat, and I'll speak to you again soon. Bye bye.